Are you ready for the truth? Bring it on!
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Do you want the whole truth? I don't think you're ready.
Governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people.
It's Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth.
Well, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. We're glad you're here and stayed with us. If you want to get in on the action, please feel free to go to the Facebook page of American Family Radio, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, and weigh in on Ted Cruz's filibuster, which continues on the issue of defunding Obamacare. Now, why is he filibustering his own bill? Okay, let's go back and forth real quick. The idea here is that if they allow Reid to go to the process where shut down debate and allow for a vote on shutting down the debate, he will put in, if they allow it to go to conference, he will strip out the language. And he only needs 51 votes to do that, to get that measure through. So what Cruz is saying is, I'm going to not allow him to get to that place where he can do it because that takes 60 votes to end debate, end discussion, cloture. So if that is the case, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stand here and not allow us to get to that place. And to get beyond me, it'll take 60 votes. Because the result, and remember we talked about results of policies, the result is if you vote for cloture, what happens is you're voting for the defunding of Obamacare to be taken out. That's the reality. So that's why he's doing what he's doing. Britt Hume, a man I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and still do, by the way, even though I disagree with him on some things. See, you can do that. I know you know that. Many on the left don't think it's possible. That said, Britt Hume, Fox News analyst, had this to say about talk radio show hosts and their control over candidates and how they're corrupting the process as evidenced by the likes of Ted Cruz's action to filibuster his own bill, or what you just heard, why he was doing it, because it, in essence, is a suicide mission. Here he was last night on the O'Reilly Factor. Roll it.
The guy. Look, it's not controlling, but it's a factor. I mean, if you're a pragmatic politician up for re-election, you're looking at the landscape, and you don't want a lot of problems. And you don't. And in many of these districts, the Democrats can't cause you any problems. There are just not enough of them. What there are enough of is conservative Republicans, and conservative Republicans around the country today are very disappointed in their party and its leadership. And they think that the control of the House of Representatives should have been able to give them much more leverage than they seem to have been able to demonstrate, and they should have been able to do more with it. And so if you're sitting over in the House of Representatives and some measure to defund Obamacare comes along, and you think it's a suicide mission because it might involve a government shutdown, you're going to be hesitant to oppose it anyway because you don't want the most conservative, you don't want the Tea Party, and you don't want the conservative radio talk show hosts on your back.
But
that doesn't mean they can defeat you, but it means you don't want it.
Okay. So that's a point of view. Calling people out for their positions, advocating for what you believe in. Obviously, if you have the courage of your convictions and you're willing to communicate those with your constituents, it's on you to do so. And those people standing up for what would happen by invoking cloture and allowing the procedure to be used to strip the language out of, in essence, striking the defunding language, are merely pointing out the realities of allowing a vote on this as it stands, the House bill as it stands. They're looking for a clean vote on the House bill. That's what Ted Cruz is defending. He's called every name in the book, but that's what he's defending. We've gone over the fact of the failures of Obamacare. And see, what gets me about this is, I spoke to it last hour, but we're dealing with the process and people saying, yeah, but the Republicans are going to be blamed for it. It always happens. That's the deal. It's always going to happen. If the government shuts down, the Republicans are going to be blamed for it, regardless of the facts. And to me, Cruz made this point today in his speech, ongoing, by the way. But he talked about the little engine that could, the idea of going to the moon, the idea of taking on Hitler, and recognize, oh, we can't do that. Oh, it's just not practical. And the defeatist attitude, not trusting the American people enough, and fearing the mainstream media enough. But guess who becomes the villain? Radio talk show hosts who are talking about this and encouraging it. Why are we talking about it? Because we have the original town hall here. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, proudly on AFR Talk. And I'm speaking to talk radio generally. It's original town hall. This is the connection to the folks who are not heard. And many talk show hosts say, we haven't been heard. So we want to get the other side out. We want to make sure there's another side to it because the system is so corrupt. And also, there are two constituencies that benefit from the status quo. One is the left because it's lean there, it's compromised there. Look at $16.9 trillion. You understand. Look at the state of our government, making promises it can't keep, believing in big government, and the results of big government. I mean, the status quo is going to grow government and not deal with the situation. Then you have the establishment who says, you know what, we don't want to rock the boat too much because that will put us out to expose and take some risks. And if we take risks, then we may not get reelected because, well, then we'll have to deal with the leftist machine if we become real conservatives or are conservative on that particular issue. People can be conservative and disagree with the strategy of Ted Cruz. I believe that. But my point is, if they do that, all of a sudden they're taking on the leftist media as well. They're stepping outside the box rather than doing what the establishment and others and the left wants to do. I think there was a message sent to Congress in 2010. I think it was sent in 1994. I think business as usual got out of hand. And guess who won the philosophical debate when it came to that issue? Bill Clinton, you say, won the debate. No, he didn't win the debate. He won the election by keying in that he lost the debate. And he adopted and co-opted the platform. See, conservatives are going around, well, we just don't win. We don't ever win. Yes, you did. And we do. But we've got to know how to make that win translate into the real history being told, one. Two, momentum to expose and shine a light on all the stew out there that is part of what we've seen out of the establishment and the left in this country. That's what we're dealing with. And Ted Cruz is taking it on. And I do not believe it's a suicide mission because we got a bill in the sense of conservatives got a bill out of the House. And they were telling us, no, that's not possible before. But it is changing. Hans von Spakovsky pointed that out. Nonetheless, we do have the same old debate being had time and time again. And it includes ridicule. With that said, I'm actually going to save that clip and I want to move to a discussion and open up the phones. 1-888-589-8840. 1-888-589-8840. The topic is this. The moral high ground. People invoking Christianity and saying it is about supporting big government. Here is Representative Lee on MSNBC this weekend. It's cut number 2. Cut number 2. Roll it.
they can take care of their kids and live the American dream. SNAP helps people do that, and so this was very mean. And as I said on the floor, many people on the other side who voted for this, they're people of faith, and they go to church on Sunday and they pray. Yet here on Thursday, what did they do? They moved to cut and take away food from hungry people.
Well, and it did seem that the Pope would agree with you that is a bit mean-spirited. Thank you, Congresswoman Barbara Lee.
Okay, Congressman Barbara Lee says, hey, the Pope agrees with big government helping the poor. And Charlie Rangel and Ed Schultz took it up a notch, well, further or lower, however you want to describe it. 1-888-589-8840. Here is Charlie Rangel talking about how Ed Schultz is so right and, well, roll it.
And I think the Pope has heard you. He has expressed himself. And I don't care whether you're Catholic or Protestant, Jew or Gentile, Mormon. This is the time. Anyone that's familiar with the Bible, anything like that, when Jesus said that you're going straight to hell if you didn't treat the less of his brothers and sisters, and what did he say? He said he was hungry. Didn't give him food stamps. He was thirsty. You didn't purify the water. That he was naked, and you didn't give him Social Security. And God knows he was sick, and you gave him no comfort. Can you imagine if 60 million Catholics became missionaries just for the poor, the sick, and the uninsured, and then the Jewish community and the Protestant community? Nobody likes that the Congress is doing nothing. A handful of people who drank the Kool-Aid is ruining our country, and the moral compass, it shouldn't be us going to them. They have been called by a higher authority. I think this is the beginning of a new era. I really hope and pray that it is.
So is Christianity about big government and serving the poor? Is it moral to encourage more government programs? Keep in mind, 1-888-589-8840. Amy Ridenour writes in newsbusters.org, as well as her conservative blog, that we're talking about a cut in the rate of increase. Increase food stamp funding, the SNAP program, by 65% over the next 10 years. Republicans said 57% over the next 10 years. The new legislation from Republicans would require work requirements that were taken out, codify status of illegals, remove eligibility for food stamps for people with cash resources. I mean, so... But if you vote against that, if you don't vote for a 65% increase, only a 57% increase, are you being more consistent with your beliefs? More consistent with Scripture? 1-888-589-8840. Do you have the moral high ground? David, Texas, thank you for your patience. Welcome.
Hello?
Your thoughts? Yes, sir. Welcome.
Hey, Crane, thanks for taking my call.
Yes. Thank you for calling. Tell me, what do you think about this? The idea that more government and voting against a 65% increase versus a 57% increase, or even we can go to general government programs, Obamacare. The idea of voting against Obamacare, defunding Obamacare, voting for that is somehow you're not living up to what God has asked you to do and outlined in Scripture.
I disagree. That's a small-minded way of looking at it. You know, that's looking under the microscope. And when you look back, you look at the big picture, you can see all the damage it's going to do. It's going to hurt everyone in the long run. It's already hurting. We're broke. This nation is broke. Yeah, we need to do things and we need to take care of people, but we need to get our finances in order first. I mean, any household who had a budget like this, or not that we even have a budget. But you got to get the finances in order, and then you start taking care of the extras.
Otherwise, our kids, we're giving that bill to our kids, so we're borrowing, and then we become a slave to the lender. Yeah, it's a problem in so many ways. David, appreciate your point of view. Great points that you made. And, there we go. Let's just make sure that I am this, and it's all good. All right, now we go to, no? All right, there we go. And we go to Steve in Florida. Steve, you calling from Florida? Great to be with you, Steve. Thanks for your patience. 1-888-589-8840. what do you think about the idea of big government, meaning if you vote against an increase in government programs that serve the poor, ostensibly serve the poor, that, hey, you're not living up to what you are as a Christian, and you're at odds with the faith?
Well, my own personal beliefs are they need to get a grip on reality, because those of us that lived in dumpsters and worked our way out of that and, now have homes on decent-sized pieces of property, have raised 3 children, have 13 grandchildren with all of them in college. I mean, I put myself through college. I didn't go to college till I was in my 40s. And just for a point of reference, my wife right now pays $37 a week for health care. When this takes effect, they've already been told she will go to $273 a week. She won't have health insurance.
Yeah,
we can't afford that.
And that's what's been happening. Steve, you obviously have a fascinating story, and one that should be told more and more. That's why I was talking about Ted Cruz today, Steve, if you're still with us. And the fact is, Ted Cruz is telling the story about his father immigrating from Cuba and what he went through in his first job and building up and going from there. And we've got to hear these stories and recognize how true economic growth works, how the idea of using your godly gifts has a starting point, and that you learn lessons along the way. And Steve, I'm just proud to have you and honored to have you in the audience. And if you ever have an opportunity to tell me more of that story through an email, I'd love to hear it. Thank you very much for your phone call. Take care. 1-888-589-8840, 1-888-589-8840. Morality, the idea that you're morally superior, in essence, the idea that you are more in line with the faith, and that being Christianity, when you believe in increasing big government programs that ostensibly serve the poor. Dina, in the great state of Tennessee. Hello, Dina.
Hi, how you doing? It's an honor.
You're on.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
So what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's deplorable. But actually I had another question.
Okay, well.
It's kind of related. I'm a teacher, and I work with children with disabilities.
All right, well, the people aren't hearing you. You can call back in. I appreciate it. I want to stay on topic, by the way, too. If you have other questions, other topic suggestions, great. That's wonderful. But it's not fair when we open up the other side. Dina, thank you, though. I appreciate you, and you have one of the toughest jobs in the world, being a teacher, and we are certainly appreciative of that. My best half was a teacher. Yeah, amazing what you all have to put up with. So we go to, I'm wondering on the name, Thadai? Hello? Thaddeus? Virginia. In Virginia. You're calling from Virginia. Your name begins with a T.
Actually, it's Phyllis. How you doing, Crane?
Hey, Phyllis. I am doing great, and other than my eyes really need to be checked. But other than that, fantastic. Phyllis, let me know what you think about this.
I enjoy your program. I listen to you every night on the way home from work. I just want to tell you a little story. You know, when my husband and I had little kids, when our children were little, we had food stamps. But you know what? It helped us out until we were able to get on our feet, and then we got off of them because our pastor said it wasn't nothing wrong with using it, but it was a sin to stay there because God don't like lazy people.
Thessalonians speaks to that,
that's what we did.
Yeah, wow. Phyllis, let me ask you this. What if the food stamps and the government benefits were increased to the point that if you took a job, you'd be taking a cut in pay? How would that incentivized one way or another? It would have been more financially better for you to stay in the government program as opposed to take the job. Do you think that is a good place where we should be with our government?
No.
No. I agree with you. And by the way, thank you. I'm honored you're in the audience. The fact is, when there are programs out there, absolutely. This is where it's interesting, Phyllis. This is where the debate gets really lost because we go to the cartoonish element of politics. But it is in the fact that when somebody says, I don't want to increase in food stamps, and inevitably I'd like to localize everything, block grant, whatever it may be, or just allow for more through the tax code for organizations to take care of this, because as opposed to 30 cents on the dollar, 60 to 90% on the dollar goes to the person in need, as opposed to the organization and the administration of the aid. And I'm speaking to the government versus the private sector, or organizations, private organizations, not-for-profits doing it on their own. They're much more efficient. But the idea of opposing an increase in food stamps, Phyllis, in the cost of those, you're telling me, as someone who has been there, that's not immoral. That's not going against what the Bible teaches.
No, because God don't want us to be an enabler to where people are going to rely on that and they're not even going to try.
Phyllis,
they're not even going to try to better themselves.
Phyllis, I am honored you're in our audience. You made some great points, and I appreciate your perspective. I appreciate your story. And, wow, it once again proves we have the smartest audience in talk radio. No offense to any other show or anything along those lines. I would just say AFR Talk in general, but also Nothing But Truth. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, proudly on AFR Talk, because what you just identified was the human nature aspect of it and what happens enabling. We also have the idea of, where does this money come from? Well, it's taken by force from us through taxation, or will be taken from our kids because they'll be paying off the debt. It's amazing how the left throws these things in. Let's keep going with the phone calls, though, because we just want to talk to you. And I want to go to Mississippi. I love Mississippi. John,
Hello.
Great to be with you. Your thoughts on the conversation about food stamps and cuts?
I think the one distinction that everyone is missing is that when Jesus commanded us to give to the poor, he was speaking to individuals, not governments.
I just gave you a fist bump there, John.
when you see the studies that come out that show how much liberals give of their own private money compared to how much conservatives give of their private money, you really do see where their priorities are. They want to be generous with other people's money, not their own. And I think Charlie Rangel is going to have a rude awakening on the day of judgment in spite of his generosity with my money.
Okay. Well, John, I appreciate your perspective. As I said in the beginning of those comments, I gave you a fist bump, and I appreciate your passion, pointing out that it's the government taking. It's our individual obligation to take care of the poor and those in need. We can't distort the context of the scripture references that we hear consistently. We recognize that Michelle Bachmann, I love Michelle Bachmann, what she said, if you do not work, you do not eat, Thessalonians, discussing the fact that what aid and giving money to people who can't, the widows and the sick, can't, and if God is giving you the ability, you better use it. And that's what the actual bill does in the Republican form, not about ours or D's, about accountability. But I digress. I just appreciate you, and I hope you appreciate you, and you recognize that you have gifts. God created you. He loves you. He wants you to use those gifts. Yeah! Live on in your life, compassion in your heart, and always keep the faith in Jesus Christ. AFR Talk.